Welcome to another episode of the Future of Go-to-Market. Today with Björn Schäfer from Rowing 8 around focus and discipline. Björn, we've known each other, I think, for years now, since 2020, I think, if I'm not mistaken. We've worked together on about like a dozen B2B SaaS companies. And one thing we always discuss, besides like go-to-market engineering and HubSpot and pipeline generation and all the hype around AI and SaaS and what happens, is the focus and discipline that's required to scale something from 0 to 1 million. That's you can hustle your way, but especially from 1 to 10 and beyond, you need a certain focus and discipline to do the right things the right way consistently over time. And that's something we've seen, like the episode could probably be called the lack of focus and discipline in SaaS. But I mean, before I say too much, who are you? What are you building? Why are you here today? And then we can take it from there. And if you can share one or two things that people can instill pretty much immediately, that would be amazing.
Okay, perfect. So first of all, thanks for having me. And you're right. So I think we got introduced almost 5 years ago, and I appreciate the healthy battle between sales and go-to-market. And now it's the future of go-to-market. So we have ticked off that list. So who am I? I'm a salesperson by heart, so I have a love and hate relationship with sales. Started almost 20 years ago, working in a telecommunications store, and then moved quickly to B2B sales. Published a book last year for the first time, aligning all the entire customer journey, basically, marketing, sales, customer success, and product. And what it's like, what I discovered, it's apart from the LinkedIn bubble and all the noise out there, it's still, I'm a big fan of basics done right, and happy to dive into the basics, the focus, and then the diligent execution.
Yeah, same here. And I think on a battle of sales versus go-to-market, that's what we all witness as well in 2025, right? That it could be sales-led, meant it was just sales, and you call people and like they come to you and you sell them stuff because they need to, and there's money's free. Like marketing, customer success, revenue operations, product, financial knowledge became a lot more important in the recent 2 to 3 years, even. Like it's not like a decade or so. And I mean, we're just too lazy to rebrand to Revenue Playbook or GTM Playbook, I think. On a side note, so I agree with you on the go-to-market side. So that's something we very often see, right? And we discuss a lot. And you mentioned that in the briefing as well. So what's one of the things, a quick win to take action, like run a segment audit and not just chasing volume over relevance. Like we need more leads, more people, more geographies, more industries, more products, more go-to-market motions. Can you share a bit more about like how you do that and like what it takes in terms of focus and discipline, and how it can also influence other things like your discovery script and your company rhythm, how you operate go-to-market?
Yeah, so love to. So when you look at, when you hear market segmentation, so some people, if you're kind of close to investors, you think about potentially some, or you think about ICP and all the kind of great terminology. To boil it down, what I found out is also in terms of how to enable and train people and actually put it into motion on a daily and weekly basis. I'm a big fan of hero stories, and hero stories is a very simplified way to describe any kind of use case. So it starts with the status quo, which needs to be bothering and painful, because otherwise you wouldn't invest any kind of time and resources to think about changing the status quo. And then it's about providing the right capabilities, the features to change this status quo for good. And at the very end, then you have benefits, you have functional benefits, you have emotional benefits, you have potentially even social benefits. And this, in a very simplified way, is a key for orchestrating the entire go-to-market organization with product. Because if you align on these hero stories, either you can tell with existing customers and or you are dare to tell in the future, the groundwork is already done, because marketing can work on, so circling back, so what kind of companies should we target? What kind of personas? What is the value proposition? What are the angles to really bring people to interest and or consideration? Sales is very, I would say, briefed and with a clear framework of, okay, is this the right status quo? Do we have the right capabilities to solve this pain? And are we set up for success? And please jump in, because this is, and we can dive into more details, but this is a very tangible, simplified way how I look at market segmentation and customer segmentation.
Yeah, very much agree on the, are you capable of solving it to the level you need to solve it, like literally being 5 to 10x better than the status quo for people to change, right? And like the hero story in Winning by Design, terms like SPICE, situation, pain, impact, critical event, decision. And what we see so often with founders at around like 1 to 3 million in ARR, annual recurring revenue, is that they basically say like, look, how do we make this happen for the 5 segments, 3 go-to-market motions in 2 continents? So like, how do you become world-class at boxing, CrossFit, trail running, discus throwing, and climbing? Like, you don't. It's like, well, what you just described, that you're trying to master 5 different sports that are highly competitive. Like, yeah, but like, we get requests from all of that. So just because I asked you to join me or like for an Inferno half marathon in Lauterbrunnen, which might be a stupid idea, you don't need to say yes if you have other things lined up, like in your life, right? Like we can go boxing once, but it's for fun. I can go like swimming once, but it's for fun. But it's not what you do as a company to get repeatability. So once you do that, how do you basically take the consequence of that in discovery and qualification? Because qualifying, people always think like, I need to build a case to sell something. But I think 80% of discovery and qualification is qualifying out what the person does not need, and also to tell a lot of people no.
Yep. So before we jump to this, I'd like to add one extra component to the equation, because when I look back into my investments, but also working at Urban Sports and other companies, so I'm becoming more and more a big fan of, so is the market segment, whatever this means, is it big enough? So when I know you're a big fan and supporter of Winning by Design. So there's a rule of thumb in the US. You should aim for one go-to-market motion for 10 mil. So Jaco said it's for Europe, it's 3 mil ARR potential, but it helps the entire organization, and I'm become more and more diligent on it. If I'm assessing kind of the current customer base, and this normally roughly between 1 million, you have different use cases, you have different company size class, it's all fair. So this is, Alex Essner wouldn't agree, but this is kind of the way to product market fit. And then it comes to product segment fit, and then it comes go-to-market fit. So that's the order, just to put this straight. So, but then you really should, and it might sound a little bit theoretical, but I think it's truly, truly helpful, is to assess, is this use case and market combination big enough to reach 2 million, 3 million in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yes.
Because this helps, this is kind of the second level of conviction to really double down, or have just to focus and have kind of all the resources united to really hit on hard on that kind of penetration. And then we'll come to how to then tailor the discovery around this.
And I think a challenge we have by how our education system works on a focus and discipline. Focus and discipline for like 15 years from primary school to a university degree means also crank something in, like in a period of 3 to 6 months, take a grade, get a grade, whatever it is, like A+, B-, like Sachsi, Eis in Switzerland, and then move on with life. And you constantly have around like 5 to 10 different subjects at any given time. And that's the definition of like focus on French, geography, sports, physics, and chemistry and math, and then do something else next semester. And that's exactly the opposite of what makes you successful in go-to-market.
Yeah.
So I think if we're telling people as like, oh, you're not disciplined, you're not focused, people are like, well, but that's how I've been growing up. Now I need to change a lot of behavior. What's one thing that you've seen working on this analog transformation to tell a founder who needs to tell the VC, like, this is a huge market, international, everybody needs this, like there's 27 industries that can benefit, to get to 1 billion in ARR and go public? It's like, yes, but not right now.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So I think it's, I have a new client. They started with a horizontal SaaS offering, kind of SaaS platform, dealing with 20 industries, 6 different use cases, and investors loved it. And they kind of hit it, they made it to kind of roughly 2 million. So they were at the right time, got a lot of kind of self-service, product-led, so really unusual for the DACH region. But now growth is stalling, and they made, before I joined, they made a strategic decision to double down on sales-led and sales assisted. And now we have to go vertical. So we really have to boil it down to 1-2 industries, just a few use cases to have the focus, but also to have a fair chance to enable the sales reps or any kind of the entire go-to-market organization. And to pick up your topic. So as soon as we agreed on this is kind of the hero story 1, this is kind of hero story 2, or these are the main use cases per vertical to make it very tangible, it's so much easier to build up authority, because you know inside out what is working in, for example, the food industry when it comes to hygiene checks and quality assurance and whatsoever. No clue how it works in manufacturing, by the way. And then you talked about Spice. You can work with Spin, Challenger Sales, all the techniques. But in assessing, let's start with a situation for Spice or with Spin as well, is you more and more you build up this pattern knowledge, this expertise, because probably situations are very comparable. The context is kind of similar. So they have to invest in operational excellence. They have to become compliant. The status quo is not working anymore. So you're building up some, what you are aiming between 1 and 10 million is repeatability. So you get more and more kind of the same. And this is what you should keep on looking for. And the same with the pains. So you could assume that they have these and these pains. Of course, you should be open, but you also can tell people, so this is very similar to another client of ours. And just as an appetizer, this is how we solved it. So it's not just this stupid questionnaire you just run through.
I agree. And it seems very challenging to just witness sometimes, like, why it's still not the case, right? I listened to a Ray Dalio podcast, like most successful hedge fund manager in macro. And he was like at 70, 80 years old. He was on a podcast like, why am I invited to the show? Like, why do I need to, am I saying something that's not obvious, right? Like the things like happened in 1933, like people study history and now everybody goes bananas again. Like, why is this happening? And to your point, right? When you look at elite athletes or professional musicians most play one instrument. Most elite athletes, like when you see them warm up, boxers do cross jab, runners do like very basic movements. Soccer players, they do very like basic stuff. Like every hugely successful top 0.1% person in the world does very basic stuff all over again. Not because they had in a mastery the decade ago, but because that's what makes them great and what keeps them at top level. Cristiano Ronaldo, like 40 years old, still on top level soccer. What do you feel is different about founders in B2B SaaS that it's so hard for them to get to do less things better consistently?
It's a great question. So, and it wouldn't be fair to kind of assess all the founders in a kind of similar way. But let's check in with some character traits I witness over and over again. So, including me. So what they have in common, and I think it's desperately needed to reach 1 million and really get kind of first market traction, is this kind of curiosity. So if you've built up, you've envisioned something to change for better and good, and you kind of try to build up this traction, and there's a linear way. So you have to navigate through, you have to say, okay, this is a hypothesis, it didn't work out. But now this is kind of somehow this is building up traction. So you, as a founder, you are used to, I can do with my platform, I can do so many things, a gazillion things, and it's great to see where we build up this initial traction. And on the flip side, maybe it's counterintuitive and or founder so they assume wrongly that the same ability can be duplicated and replicated with all the sales reps or any kind of employee, that they can handle 6, 7 industries, use cases, and they still love it the way they do. And I witness this pattern over and over again. They have this kind of authority. They are experts in their field. They have a charisma. They can do nearly everything. So they can literally sell everything. But to move from founder sales to founder-led and founder-led go-to-market or whatever kind of proper sales organization, that's not going to work. And what is happening is that people get first confused, then frustrated, and then at the very end, the result is that no one is happy and successful. So focusing helps everyone to say, okay, this is kind of the foundation for success. This is use case 1. This is use case 2. We master 2 of them. We understand properly some industries when we talk about virtual sales and kind of sales involvement. And then we can move on and add another use case, or people kind of evolve. But I'm a firm believer, and I would call myself an advocate or evangelist. You as a founder and leadership have to provide a digestible set of segmentation to really have the foundation for mastery.
I agree with everything you just said, with one nuance on sales reps not being successful in startup or scale-up sales due to also a lack of focus and discipline. Because there's very few salespeople that have been consistent and reap the compounding effects of selling mid-market SaaS to HR professionals, or selling enterprise solutions to finance, or selling SMB software to entrepreneurs. So most professionals also change jobs every 9 to 18 months. And one time they try to sell construction software at Construct, and then they go to Beekeeper and sell to HR, and then they go to Scandid and sell enterprise things. And then they come and say well, the founder messed up. He wasn't too specific about doing one thing. It was well, have you? So it's often a mismatch made in not heaven, to put it mildly. The founder wants to get 4 different things from salespeople, but really needs one. And then comes a person who has experienced 3 different go-to-market motions in 2 geographies with 5 different ICPs in 2 things across non-channels, but they're knowledgeable of many, master of none as well. And if 2 masters of none meet, the result is not going to be focus and discipline. This was, otherwise it looks like an early UFC fight. There comes a BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappling specialist meeting a Taekwondo champion. It looks very awkward because they both know their discipline, but it becomes freestyle. And freestyle times freestyle minus times minus is not plus.
Well, that's an interesting one, because I think there are multiple layers. So when it comes to how to run a discovery, I would argue it doesn't matter whether you do it in an HR context or an industrial goods context. So you still, even if you have you mentioned Beekeeper and Construct. So from a technique perspective, it doesn't change that much.
I disagree on this one in 2025. I would have agreed with it in 2022, but you need to earn the right to ask questions nowadays. The people who are influential in buying decisions, either champions or economic buyers, will not let you ask 7 questions that are not adapted to their industry anymore. That is argument with Patrick Trumpy. It's yeah, well, here's the discovery script. What do you think about it? Your great buyers will not let you ask 7 questions that are not tailored to the use case. So you need to earn the right and share 2, 3 industry specific insights that they learn something from, and they actually get this is somebody who can really help me, and a person can help me on something that I can't myself. And now you earn the right to demo your solution, to give a pitch and so on. While 3 years ago, you were let me give you a demo, let me open the script, let me ask you some questions, let me make you an offer, and people's fine, I'll endure it because I need to. Now in ages of ChatGPT, people can get much more knowledge without talking to a human.
But this is nice and juicy. So because I believe that this can be trained. So, and it brings us again to focus. So to really have this kind of mastery, or to be at eye level within the first minute, you can't do it with 6 industry and 4 use
Yes.
cases. No chance whatsoever. But if you agree on, or you focus on 1-2 hero stories backed with existing customers and kind of make this as a priority, you can train people not coming from the industry. You could train people not used to this use case, but you need to train them, because I totally agree with you. And that's why I'm a big fan of challenger sales, to just put another sales technique into the equation. So to have the authority to tell people and kind of to nudge them and be kind of that on that eye level, you need some background knowledge of successful customers, what is happening in the industry, why is change needed in multiple levels. So you cannot just jump into a call and hope that you get your questionnaire asked and everyone is happy and will give you some valuable information. That's not going to work.
I think to compare it to combat sports, not sports, but combat in a way, I think that will get you to the level of a weekend self-defense course, or like multi-weekend self-defense course. So if you get attacked and somebody comes with a knife at you like X, or like strangles you, like you do X, and that's the first move, that's the introduction. What if the other person responds differently than what you'd used to, because you lack moves 2 to 5, right? There's like you can train chess openings, and there's like 10 or like there's 100, and like it's complicated, like, but it's finite. It's finite in like, okay, like learn these 10 or 100 things by heart and like say this and it will be fine and you will get status alignment initially. So going to a cybersecurity firm and to a chief information security officer, like, okay, we fix distributed denial of service and this is how we help and this is why it's required. And then the CISO will simply ask, like, can you explain to me what DDoS is? And it's like, I don't know. Okay, bye. So I agree on the intro statement, but you need to be able to go deeper and be a true, like, trusted advisor in a way. Taking that from Scaling Champions, great company, in a way that the advisory doesn't stop after the initial pitch.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that you can train people within 2 weeks for any kind of use case and or industry and or product. But my point is that it can be done. But again, this can't be done if you follow too many different angles and segmentations, because let's take your example. It's even hard enough, and it will take some months probably to really build up this authority and have a proper sales experience and discovery experience until the very end. So just imagine you would do it with significantly different value propositions and verticals. It's not going to happen.
It's very different. It's very different when we had this board conversation, right, around like, hey, we get quite a few and increasingly more every week private equity requests, like, hey, our portfolio company is not doing what it's supposed to do in go-to-market. Revenue is not rising. They don't know how to do new business. They don't have a CRM. And I was like, do you have your slides with inverted colors? And I was like, do you mean with a white instead of blue background so you can print them? Like, yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And do you have them in German? So like the German thing seems to be fine in that situation, but like English is okay, but the white thing needs to be true. But to your point around discipline in also training and coaching and enabling people in a sports team, every junior sports team for 7-year-olds in soccer, people are like, you're going to show up at Tuesday night and Thursday night for 2 hours, and we're going to do like a 5K run first, and then we're going to do 100 push-ups, and then we train free kicks, and then we do one-on-ones, and then we play a game. And you show up. But we provide the sessions. We make sure the court is there. We make sure the trainer is there. We make sure we tell you what to wear, like bring shorts, bring a rain jacket, whatever. In go-to-market, this is not happening, that founders and revenue leaders tell their teams, like, we're going to provide 2 weekly 2-hour training sessions. We have a deal desk. We have training sessions. We have like weekend matches. Like, why not? What prevents the revenue leaders from having this instilling this focus and disciplines by leading by example? There's very few people who do it. Like a Patrick Trimpe still does the cold call boot camps and so on.
Absolutely. So, and I just had a conversation with a great founder. So it's I think smartness is not the issue. So, and it's surprising because they hit the kind of 2-3 million kind of ceiling wall. And he confessed, he said, I have never thought that it would be so complicated and complex orchestrating marketing, sales, product, have a kind of ongoing moving target with product market fit and building up some sales culture on top or in parallel. And I see over and over again exactly what you're saying. So I have one great client, and we simplified the KPIs and the numbers we look into 4 simple buckets. So bucket 1 is first input output. So saying how many meetings, kind of first calls, second calls did we schedule, and how many did we complete on a weekly basis. So this kind of classic, it starts somewhere, and then you can double down on email, LinkedIn, all that stuff. So we look at how many meetings have you been taken in this week and how many have you scheduled. And then we look into progress. So progress to discovery call, progress to demo.
I find it interesting that, just to fight with you for fun, no, I mean, due to honest conviction that you still measure meetings versus weighted pipeline, because I had this battle internally at one point. I was like, Manuel, you didn't enter, like for our weekly, we're very transparent at SalesPlaybook, like how many sales qualified leads, what's weighted pipeline, what's the booked revenue, and what's average contract value. And we track velocity and conversion by stage and business unit over time, like longitudinal, that's okay. But we look at basically 3, basically like SQLs. I care less nowadays because an SQL from somebody signing a 100K deal is like 10x worth 10x more than somebody signing a 10K deal. So I don't want to get, if I can, I don't want to have 10K SQLs because the customer acquisition costs are not 10x higher to close a 100K deal. So weight the pipeline, what can I expect in future revenue? Booked revenue, does it hold up? An average contract value? How is my go-to-market motion evolving in terms of, because that determines how I should do go-to-market. If I do 5K deals versus 50K versus 500K, it's very different. So these are the 3 metrics I look at every week with the whole team.
Interesting. So I think so 2 things. So there are 2 levels for me. So one is leadership reporting, and the other thing is how to steer the team. And I learned, so in a very simplified way. So of course there are nuances, etc. So, but you ask for practical, tangible insights. So I would either way look about input-output correlation, because this is kind of the starting point. How many connected calls, kind of quality conversation do I have? So that's all. And how you get there, I care later if you kind of, you need a base. So then I'm caring about progress in terms of discovery and demo, because these are the 2 most important meetings you can get. And you are totally agreeing on this. So if you haven't properly done your discovery, demo is pretty rough and tough. But at the very end, with discovery and demo, you get kind of 80-90% accuracy on what is happening in your pipeline. So if you're not dealing with enterprise. And then, the reason why I'm not working with weighted pipelines so much is because if you haven't built up proper processes and you have kind of done the stage design, etc., I care more about a rolling forecast. So what is happening in terms of, do I commit? Is this best case? So really having this, what is happening in kind of the running rolling month, and what is happening in the quarter. But at the very end, it's very close to each other. So input, progress, and what is the value projection.
Interesting. It's wonderful that after 5 years we can still disagree on like probably 10% of things, but I'm calling these ones out if that's okay.
Yeah. Let's move on.
It's interesting in terms of, in a mathematical sense, that because like, how do you go best case, like commit and so on? Like, how do you translate it into probability? Because if your CFO asks how much money can I expect in Q4 given 30-day payment terms, whatever, you need a percentage, right? So, I mean, at one point we had this conversation as well internally, and right now we're probably the only company with a stage at 27% for defined collaboration, because our RevOps lead basically looked at it at the real data and was like, look, out of like 100 deals, 27 converted at defined collaboration. So like, how do you go from like data to conviction? Because it's two different things, especially at this relatively early stage, where especially if you go enterprise, you don't have enough data. Like, how much do you let people say like, Björn, I just need to focus, I just need like 3 months to do this and it will be amazing, versus the discipline on the lagging indicators of what happens? Like, somebody tells you like, hey, I just need a month to go to this conference and then be drunk with this person and then like write them a letter and it will be amazing after a month and it will close 12 months from now, because that's hard, especially if deal cycles get longer.
Yep. So how to put it? Simplified, I don't trust anyone. So that please quote me on this. So there's a background story. So I almost ruined one of my personal startups where I had this kind of sales rockstar. She was amazing. So she took basically, she at some point she did, I think, 90% of the entire revenue. We scaled to 7 figures. Everything was shiny and great, and it could do a gazillion stuff. And we never managed to make second, third, fourth hire kind of somewhere near comparably successful. So at the very end, and then she left and we always went bankrupt. So the system is always more important than any kind of rock stars in my team. So that's a very strong conviction. It might sound brutal and harsh, but bear with me and all the listeners. But I'm building up system and processes. So to answer your question, every stage has an entry criteria and has an exit criteria. So when we talk about pipeline, I don't care about whether we talk about SQL, SAL, whatever. So, but if we talk about an offer proposal, all spiced criteria have to be solidly assessed, or using my own framework, custom, Medic, or whatever. And then depending on the sales stages, then I have the base for weighted pipeline as kind of the first level or component. And on top, because this is a different perspective, I do this kind of rolling forecast by category, saying, okay, is this a best case because we already have sold into the group, I know the budget holder, whatever, we have shared investors, etc. And with this, basically 2 perspectives, I have a very solid way to have a properly somehow kind of forecast corridor, but also a kind of proven system to enable salespeople. Because it's not just about me, it's about to provide a great setup for success for everyone.
Yeah, and you mentioned like a second angle to this. I think it's not contradictory, but it's just like there's enough and there's too much when you mention like a future of go-to-market. Believe very few people agree with you that many go-to-market orgs early on, they're massively over-engineered, and the future is fewer tools, fewer handovers, just founder-led discipline plus segment-led execution until repeatability is proven, and then scale, and not before. Hiring a head of sales too early is like hiring a DJ to fix your Wi-Fi. Just fix the bloody Wi-Fi before you bring in any people. And it's so I agree with that. It's so much harder to train 10 people on something that barely works than getting it to work and then like get gradually more people. Like, and really, probably want to expand on this a bit of like how many tools do you need and how many handover points for which go-to-market motion also. Like enterprise, maybe you cannot sell SAP with just being one person, but in SMB there might be 0 people in the future.
Yeah, so I agree with you that it will be less tools. So depending. So when I see Lenny Hines and some experts when it comes to lead gen, so that's arguably. But when it comes to let's focus on sales for the time being. So the majority of my clients are just working with HubSpot and proper processes. So exactly what we are talked about. So to have a very simplified dashboard, whether we follow my structure or your structure, can be easily built in HubSpot. So no rocket science needed. So to have a kind of either that angle or that angle to estimate a forecast in that kind of given month, start with the basics. So I'm using close date correlating with close date. If I don't, with contract start date. So if I don't have a contract start date aligned, how can you build up any kind of next steps, mutual action plan, how you call it? So just start with the basics. And of course, you can enhance this with kind of call analytics like Kickscale, Demo Boost, Win AI, etc. But at the very end, if you haven't properly built up the foundation, focusing on just a few things, technology won't fix it.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. I mean, technology is like this old seesaw, right? Shit in, shit out. And it will not make things better automatically. I think that the note taker is nice because like now I built like a custom GPT. I initially built it for testimonials and like literally copy paste text, and it writes you like a spice case study. And it proved handy for offers as well. So I can directly put it in a HubSpot code because
nice.
like the thought process behind that was like when we make an offer, we basically need to understand the future case study of that offer in 3, 6, 12 months from now. Like what's the target state? What do we want to write? So we have this before, after state, and like the ways of working, like the commercials should be basically a mechanism to go that we can basically take the same text and put it to like the website 6 months later.
Okay, cool.
So I think that's like really helpful then, and it directly integrates with the CRM. And I'm also equally skeptical with all like you need Clary for forecasting and 27 digital sales rooms and a lead gen forensic tool on top of the leads. And you just don't have enough pipeline. That's mostly the problem nowadays.
Yeah. And if I'm investing right now in co-investing into a very simplified, lean sales tech edition based on the funky flywheels methodology. But it's a very simplified segment one, how to track cohorts along the entire customer journey. So from really marketing to customer success, there are some functionalities HubSpot still don't serve. But at the very end, HubSpot, if you with some at least until 5 million with sales-led motions, you can do nearly everything with HubSpot and some just 10
and increasingly more with like quotings and increasingly workflows around billing, subscription, invoicing, and so on. I agree. I mean, that's where the name SalesPlaybook originally comes from. After I had the stupid idea in 2019 to call it Hartman Ventures, and people wanted to get money from me and I from them, and it was not nice. And I built a progressive web app because I was sort of tired. And like it was also, hey, can I get something for $50 a month versus a 5K workshop to get with people through problem, solution, buyer, concern, social proof, risk reversal, differentiation, and so on. So I built it. And people literally told me like, my best friend literally told me like, Manuel, just give me the bloody spreadsheet. It's fine. It's fine. Like the spreadsheet is more interactive. I can share it. Nobody needs to log into an app. I don't need more apps. I don't need more tech. I just need something where I can collaborate and understand and get things done. I was like, okay, if even like 200 signups within 2 weeks, like 0 wanted to pay more than $100 a month. So it's like not more tools. The point I found interesting about that part of like having fewer handovers. And I think increasingly with like more people at a problem and people expecting smoother journeys in the era of generative AI, it happens more and more that the AI is very smooth, right? The cold email is excellent. The content is useful. The document is nice. And I think Jason Lemkin's example where like an AI generated email, Jason, congrats so much on 804 episodes of the SalesPlaybook podcast. And you mentioned in your post from like 2 days ago exactly that post-production and publishing is a challenge. And we solved this by doing X, Y, Z. I was like, great, let me give you money. I have 50K allocated to this. And then a human replied 1 week later, Jason, who are you? How many episodes do you do? And like, what's the problem? I was like, mate, so just go away and can you please let the AI tell the AI I want to give you money. How do you see this in the future of GTM where AI is just so much more focused and disciplined just by the nature of technology than humans? Because it doesn't take vacation, it doesn't have tempers, it stays polite.
I think what you just mentioned is, so maybe I'm in the wrong space, but I think this is for me still it's very rare that you have this kind of level of expertise with AI, even with young startups and early stage startups. So this is, I think Jason is doing a great job there. Just a few people out there, but to really fully master this, I haven't seen it on scale yet. So will it happen? Yeah, sooner or later. But again, and this is kind of circling back to our discussion, you need focus, and you need to do it step by step. So because again, the AI will sort out some inconsistencies, but if you aren't clear and if you aren't focused how to steer the entire organization, AI won't help you. And you might get some leads and you might get some great replies, but as an organization, and not just a sales organization, a go-to-market organization, AI won't fix it.
Yeah. What's when you talked a lot about like the importance of staying disciplined. If you are a sales reps out there listening to this, like what are top 1 to 3 things I should stay disciplined about? Because there's so much I can do, like post every day, write a ton of email, like maintain your profile, run on podcasts, read a book, go to the gym, stay healthy, blah, 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 blah. Mindset, chugga, chugga.
Yeah.
Like what are the top 1 to 3 things I should emphasize on discipline as a sales rep in 2025 and beyond?
I think it's Christian Krause. He was a great seller at Salesforce, and he was just posting again a very refreshing post about what I do on a daily basis. Is I have my target accounts, I post content relevant to my target accounts, I engage with all the comments, and I really have this kind of focus and clarity. What am I chasing? And I would, so if I have any kind of advice, so I would try and recommend to focus, either get this kind of focus account list and or have this focus in terms of in what kind of vertical would I like to be a master, what kind of use case would I really love to master. So build up your own expertise where you are a proper expert, and then enhance it with technology. But first, make a conscious decision, where do I want to be best in class?
Yeah, 100% agree. And I mean, that's on like a basically structural level, I think, very much so. And it goes back to the focus point, right? Of like becoming great at like a few things only, or like one thing. On a very tactical level, I think the 3 non-negotiables with my team as well are date in, date out, first of all. Schedule the next call on the call. And I mean, if I get into HubSpot, golden rule for me. And I get angry if people don't do it, because I know they need to call and they get a call back during another call and they send an email, and it's like friction for everybody. It's an unpleasant buyer journey, and it's customer acquisition costs. It just doesn't work. I don't see deals closing in 2025 without the next call. I don't see people magically 1 week later sending signatures for 5 figures. No. They don't wake up in the morning and like, oh, let me open DocuSign and spend 50K I didn't before, just because I woke up and I thought of Björn sending me an offer a week ago.
But sorry to jump in, because this is, I think, another very tangible thing. So I'm a big fan, and this is not, again, it's no rocket science, but it's a fundamental, it's basic. So every meeting has kind of, it's like a theater or any kind of cultural play. So you have the introduction or the initial one, you have the main part, and you have the closing part. So if you have done the framing in the beginning and the main part, it's kind of natural to ask, so what I learned today, sum it up, and kind of then derive next steps. So it's not just that you are asking for the next activity, because this often feels kind of unnatural, and it's kind of annoying because they haven't done their homework. But if you have done their work, it's kind of even almost seamless. Yeah, it totally makes sense to attend the next meeting. So let's get it right in.
Because it's a must-have for the execution schedule to solve a specific problem. Otherwise, it's this old classmate from high school, like meeting you in a bus, like, hey, Björn, we haven't catched up for 20 years. We definitely need to have a beer and dinner and go on vacation.
No, that's a reason why we have. Yeah, exactly. That's a reason why we have never catched up again. Sorry.
No, sometimes it happens. A very rare occasion. Became a good friend. He wasn't a close friend in high school, and we meet now regularly. It happens if both people are like, okay, get out of your mobile phone. Let's schedule in like Thursday night, 6 p.m. at Gerolkoche in Taqueria or so in Zurich, whatever. But I think that goes back to, is it worth doing? Like uncovering costs of inaction.
Yeah.
Is the deal worth doing? Can we really create like 3 to 10x the value I need to ask you money for that service or that product or that
What's the
AI
second two before we are running out of time? You started with the one. So
uncovering
book the next.
always book the next call, uncovering costs of action. And for me, like at SalesPlaybook, and we see like success with that tremendously with clients who adopt it truly, like send a short video sales letter after the call. It's like, yeah, but there's an auto summary and I send 20 PowerPoint slides and there's the email thread for the CEO to read up to. People don't do it. Like if you want to equip your champion with an asset to help them close the deal internally, give them a 3 to 10 minute video, like just summing up the whole buyer journey, the hero journey of like why that happens and like the case studies and the deep dive and the commercial and why it's that way and like what are the next steps. So it's just so easy for your champion to forward the email. And so like, watch the video, 5 minutes, that's it. And people appreciate it because it's like 0 AI generated. Like I literally write this video, like it's 100% manual, pun intended.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
And people appreciate the personal approach. And some people don't watch it, but they see it and it's like, I'm not watching video, like I'm fine, I read through the PowerPoint offer, but I appreciate somebody else taking the time to do this for me, not to send me the generic sales step. So hey, we could probably chat for like an hour more or longer as we usually do. What's one thing which are you really excited about in the future of go-to-market, and it can be focus and discipline related or not?
I think it's picking up our topic focus and discipline. So I think I'm more and more on the mission, especially for the DACH region, that still a lot of founders and investors don't take sales and go-to-market seriously. So it's at the very end, it's math. It's kind of like building up a sports team. It's doing the right thing at the right time in the right way. So I would really, really appreciate that the entire scene is getting the appreciation and that it's taken seriously.
For sales only, not go-to-market, right?
Yes.
Just joking. No, hey, thanks so much for being an amazing ambassador for go-to-market and for sales in the German-speaking region, for doing what you do with the book Funky Flywheels. People can find you with Björn, W.Schäfer on LinkedIn. Not too hard to find. And yeah, thanks for all the work you're doing. And there might be a second episode to this to follow through.
Thanks a lot for having me. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you. Bye-bye.